Hey guys, what's up? It's V from Movies Hunter, and today I've got a bone-chilling tale to share with you. Get ready to experience the drama, horror, and mystery of the 2020 film, The Empty Man. It all starts in Bhutan back in 1995, where four friends are on a mission to find a mysterious spot on the mountain. This reminds me of Avatar, the cartoon one. Anyway, we've got day one flashing on the screen, and things are already getting spooky. As the gang hikes up on the mountain, Paul blows into a flute-like instrument, and suddenly, he hears something calling out to him. He follows the sound until he falls down this something, and that's when things take a turn for the worse. Greg rushes in to rescue him, only to find Paul sitting in front of a creepy-looking skeleton, muttering something to himself. To make matters worse, the skeleton appears to move slightly, giving Greg the creeps. But he manages to get Paul out in time, and they all decide to take shelter in a nearby abandoned house, because that seems like a very good idea. Day 2 arrives, and things start to get even more terrifying. Paul's condition is worsening, and he is just lying there in silence. Meanwhile, Ruthie spots a figure in the ongoing snowstorm, and things quickly escalate. The figure starts matching her footsteps before charging towards her. And Ruthie runs back to the house, slamming the door shut. As she blocks the door, she hears pounding outside, but thankfully, Greg and Fiona arrive just in time. Ruthie is terrified, and she asks Greg and Fiona if they saw or heard anyone outside, but they deny it. And just when things couldn't get any worse, Paul starts whispering something in Ruthie's ear as she sleeps, leaving us all on the edge of our seats. On day 3, Greg, Fiona, Ruthie, and Paul continue their hike. But things take a deadly turn when Ruthie suddenly turns dazed and stabs Greg and Fiona with a knife. She then throws their lifeless bodies over the edge of a cliff before jumping herself, leaving Paul behind to play his flute. Creepy much. Fast forward to here in 2018, where former detective James is haunted by the tragic deaths of his wife and son in a car accident. He is now working in a security store and frequently hears a chilling voice asking him, "Where were you?" It's enough to give you goosebumps, really. Anyway, James keeps a watchful eye on teenager Amanda, who's had a rough time with her mother Nora since her father passed away. But when Amanda goes missing, Nora turns to James for help. Together, they find a message on Amanda's mirror, written in blood, that reads, "The empty man made me do it." While the official detectives take over the case, James decides to do some detectiving of his own. Later, he is on a mission to find Amanda's friend, Devara. He picks her up and she spills the tea about a crazy night a few days ago. Now, Amanda and her friends were summoning the empty man, an urban legend that takes 3 days to appear. On day 1, you hear him calling. On day 2, he makes his presence known. And on day 3, he finds you. Now, these teens blew into a bottle as part of the summoning ritual, but things went left real quick. Devara noticed Amanda whispering in Brandon's ear just like how Paul earlier whispered to Ruthie. Uh-oh, that can't be good. Now, anyway, before leaving James' car, I'm pretty scared. Devara thinks she sees the empty man lurking in the woods. Later that night, James goes back to the bridge to investigate Amanda's disappearance further. He finds the bottle they used for the summoning and decides to blow into it himself. What could go wrong, right? James then climbs down a ladder under the bridge only to come face to face with the hanged corpses of the teenagers. And guess what? The same message from Amanda's mirror is written there too. Meanwhile, poor Devara goes to a spa to unwind, but instead, she gets attacked by the empty man. The dude stabs her with a pair of scissors but makes it look like she stabbed herself. The authorities rule it as a suicide, but James smells something fishy. And honestly, who wouldn't? It's day one for James, and he is on a quest to unravel the origins of the Empty Man. He stumbles upon a cult called the Pontifex Institute, whose beliefs are rooted in places like Bhutan. Seems like a long way from home for our four friends, but it might explain how they came across the Empty Man there. James decides to pay a visit to the Institute's location, and boy, he is in for a treat. The leader, Arthur Parsons, addresses a whole crowd with his twisted ideas, but that's not all. Arthur later pulls James aside and mentions the Empty Man, who apparently grants his followers desires in exchange for their obedience. That's not sketchy at all, right? Sounds just like the pyramid scheme I fell in 2 years ago. On day 2, James takes it upon himself to follow people associated with the Institute. He ends up at a hospital where he witnesses something out of a horror movie. An older Paul is sitting in a vegetative state while people enter his room and bow to him, chanting something sinister. James can't believe his eyes, and neither can we. But wait, it gets better. When he shares this with his ex-colleagues, they give him a piece of their mind, telling him to back off. But James is not one to shy away from a good mystery. He goes to see Nora, who is still worried about her daughter. James asks her if Amanda knew about the two of them being together, but alas, Nora says, "No, James, no." James is then taken deep into the woods by a group of hooded cult members who are ready to sacrifice him to their beloved Empty Man. As they get closer and closer, James starts regretting all his life choices that brought him to the moment. But surprise, surprise, James runs away, jumps into his car, and speeds away from the creepy cult. On the third day of James's life after the close encounter with the cult, he meets Amanda, who is now under the influence of the Empty Man and his minions. Amanda, like any good cult member, explains to James that the best vessel to spread Empty Man's messages is someone who has nothing to lose or gain. And guess who fits that profile perfectly? Our very own James. To make matters worse, Amanda keeps repeating the phrase, "Where were you?" to James, forcing him to relive the horrible trauma that haunts him. Apparently, on the night when his wife and son died, James was busy having an affair with Nora. Oof, James, bad move, bad dog, bad dog. But wait, it gets even more dramatic because James, who is now completely drained of his consciousness and humanity, decides to meet Paul. James walks into Paul's room at the hospital and unloads his gun into Paul's head. And you know what's crazier? The doctors and nurses, who are all members of the cult. Yes, what the heck? Cheers James on, as he is now their new Empty Man. I don't know, it's kind of weird, but this is the story of the Empty Man. Yeah, it's a bit weird. See you in the next hunt? Yeah? Okay, subscribe.